Here we go.
Yeah.
My name is Shauna, and I'm a scruffy looking Nerf Herder.
Welcome, everybody. This is, in fact, the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. This is a live YouTube vidcast by Star Wars fans for Star Wars fans. And tonight, we're going to be discussing some of the more cringeworthy stories from Legends and Canon. And these are our favorites. They're fucking good ones. Really quick, though. I need to throw a shout out before we get started. And sorry, I'm losing my voice, people. I'm fucking sick as shit. But this fucking wicked awesome hand-tooled leather mouse pad. It's by Grail Illuminations. Fucking look them up. They're tits.
Hell yeah.
So you excited for this one, Adam?
I am. I really am. I'm not 100% in my head, but I am definitely ready to talk and awkwardly flip through different image screens in the background.
Sounds like you're fucking ready.
I'm in like Flynn, man.
In, dude. And if at any point in time I lose my voice, people, I apologize.
I was a little hesitant to do any of this because I wasn't sure what cringeworthy meant. Like, is it something we're embarrassed about? Is it something that we're just not impressed with? That it was a little too cheesy for our personal tastes, or it was somehow just kind of out there and it didn't really make a whole lot of logical sense. And so I kind of I chose a topic here that I think is a little bit out there, and that's what makes it cringeworthy. It's not necessarily that I'm super embarrassed about it or anything, because we've already spoken about probably the most cringeworthy stuff out there, and that would be, of course, the holiday special.
Hey, you know what? Those toy commercials were the shit, so whatever. At least there's that.
But arguably, this is literally like the most cringeworthy stuff. And I mean, historically, the holiday special is the most cringeworthy for all fans.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, of course, the Ewok movies are sort of the next step in the most cringy type content. But we've already had a conversation about Caravan of Courage, and I'm sure someday we're going to talk about the Battle of Endor.
We really need to. We really need to. It's super important.
Shauna,
see, for me,
Jana,
cringe.
Thanks for joining us.
Cringeworthy for me. The reason why I said we should do this. Okay, so originally it was like, all right, I need a fucking topic. We got to think of something, and we were going to talk about the Vader series because it's fucking killer. But because I'm a collector, I had to wait. So that's next month. But I was reading one of our topics, and then just kind of fell down the rabbit hole and was like, fuck, this is what we need to discuss. Just shit that's like, oh, God, that happened. That was actually a part of Star Wars history.
Right,
of course, now it's not canon anymore, thank God, but, cringeworthy indeed.
Well, it does make it interesting because there are so many different topics that each individual Star Wars enthusiast could see as like, well, that's weird. Why did they do that? So, again, this is very much just our own personal interpretation. We each have one topic that we're going to be diving into and sort of talking about, and they are very different. So we're going to kind of just go down this rabbit hole. If you have a particularly cringeworthy Star Wars experience, whether it was Old Republic or EU or canon or Legends or whatever it was, let us know. Let us know in the comments of the chat room, or just let us know in a comment of the video if you're watching it after the fact. Because part of what is so wonderful about Star Wars in and of itself is that we get to experience those moments that we absolutely love, and universally, it seems like everyone's on board with Empire Strikes Back. But there's also these moments that are less than wonderful. And so whether it's Ewok stealing a speeder bike, or Jabba the Hutt turning from a heavy-set Hungarian-looking gentleman into a slug in different revisions of the script, there's different things that we think are, kind of goofy, kind of stupid, kind of like, what? and that's what we're going to be talking about. So why not just lead in with it? What is your most cringe-worthy subject?
All right, so my fucking rabbit hole. If you guys have never read it, count yourself lucky. The Glove of Darth Vader / the Prophets of the Dark Side saga, or as it's sometimes referred to, the Jedi Prince saga. Yeah. Holy shit. All right, so I've got a fucking library of Star Wars books. A lot of them I've read multiple times. Some of them I've yet to touch, but I've got two collections, technically 6 books, that always stare at me, and I'm just like, fuck, I don't know if I can do this. Because admittedly, it is a child's series, but it's still a bit of, Star Wars, and I don't care. I try to read as much as I can. Yeah, The Glove of Darth Vader. It's epic in its horribleness. Starting off, the reason why it's called The Glove of Darth Vader is because it's literally about the fucking glove of Darth Vader, because apparently that was indestructible, and the prophets of the dark side had foreseen that whoever the new emperor would be the one that wielded the power, or the glove of Darth Vader.
Right.
And that's apparently how the Empire was going to continue. Was somebody decided to go rummage through some fucking trash. Turns out it was at the bottom of the ocean.
So clearly this was set after Return of the Jedi.
Yes, this is immediately after Return. It was so bad. And of course, I was only going to read the first one, just that way I had a little bit of fodder.
Right.
And then I'd go through, other topics. And no, I fucking read 6 books in a week. Just because I couldn't stop, like, okay, this can't get worse.
Right.
It gets worse.
It can, and it does.
Yeah, one of my favorites is Palpatine had a son, and he was a fucking Triclops. He had 3 eyes. And you know what his name was, Adam?
No, what was his name?
Triclops.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. But doesn't end there. The Council of Moths, not Moths, Jesus. Yeah. They decided,
they love wool.
Because, whatever. They both do a lot of, or have a lot of power in this series.
Yeah. Defeated by mothballs by Luke Skywalker.
Really fucking easy. They just drop that down at a exhaust port and whatever, fuck shit up. But yeah, apparently that wasn't his actual son. His actual son, the Moths had an imposter, because Triclops was just batshit crazy. And his name was Trioculus. Another very not on the nose name. It was wonderful. And mind you, they don't have eyes in the same part. Like Trioculus, he has 3 eyes like that.
Right.
But Triclops, he had a 3rd eye in the back of his head so he could see when his enemies were coming. Yeah.
I want to meet these authors and be like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah, no, agree. Especially because at this point, it's pretty well known that, Palpatine is a xenophobe. Why would he pork a mutant? Now, there's been revisions to this, because at one point, this was canon, mind you. So let's just preface it with that. This was canon. But there were revisions in later novels, magazine articles and stuff, to where it was, Triclops was an experiment, and a lot of things that happened in this series weren't as corny as they were in the books. But yeah. Oh.
Well, it reminds me of Splinter of the Mind's Eye, where at the time it was 100% canon because there was nothing else out there.
Yeah.
And then of course you had Empire Strikes Back comes out and completely kind of changes the framework of Star Wars. And so Splinter of Mind's Eye becomes just sort of like, tongue in cheek. We'll take little bits what we like and we'll ignore the rest. This is very much the same way, where, there's nothing else after Return of the Jedi when this came out. And then Zahn came out with his trilogy. And then it was just like, well, we have to remove some of this kind of stupid shit.
Yeah, because Zahn's trilogy would have been about a year after the final book came out, if I remember correctly, because I think these started in 92. And then, Heir to the Empire, I want to say, was 94.
And my cursory because I've never read these young adult novels, my cursory overview of this stated that there was allotted to be three trilogies, and they only completed two. And then by the time they finished the two, they're like, well, we could go on with another one, but there's no real reason to. And so it just sort of petered out. Like
that's exactly what it felt like too, finishing the book. The book series rather. It was like, so when you get like a nice pack of firecrackers and each one's just beautiful, that last one you're like, psh, and it just goes. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Very, very uneventful, and it didn't blow off my fucking fingers.
So aside from the Emperor's son and Darth Vader's glove being invincible, ironic they wouldn't make this entire suit that way.
Yeah.
What were some of the standout notes of this? Like, what's the prince you mentioned?
Okay, so the prince, he... A spoiler, we're jumping all the way to the end to start with the beginning. So there's a young kid named Ken. He's living underneath Yavin 4. Like there's a old underground Jedi temple, like ancient Jedi temple, because apparently everything happens on Yavin 4 now. And yeah, apparently he was the son of Triclops, so Palpatine's technically his granddad. And he was carted away by the droids that were the keepers of the temple, and they were raising him to be a Jedi versus having him turn to the dark side like his grandfather and like his father was likely to do. So that's why he was the Jedi Prince, because they wanted him to bring about the new Jedi Order.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was just dumb as shit. I mean, he's a fucking, I want to say he was 10 or 12, something like that in the book series.
Kid, yeah.
So, I mean, he's a little kid. So, of course, he acts like a little kid. But, yeah, it was goofy.
Wow. All right. Well, do you suggest other people check this series out? Is it worth the time?
If you got nothing better to do, it's fun. Honestly, the biggest thing for me was it's nice to look at what was before we had now. Because, like, looking, I can turn and look at my books and just see the decades of, stories that we have and, where they began, where they ended, and where they started again. So it's fun to see what could have very well just ended everything. And the pictures are fucking awesome. I actually forgot to send you one. The illustrators were fucking geniuses that kept on the whole Spielberg and Lucas, ribbing, like how they always sneak in references to the others' movies in their movies. When you go to the space station where the Prophets of the Dark Side reside, in the vast storage areas where all the artifacts and shit are, the Ark of the Covenant is in one of the containers.
What?
Yeah, I completely fucking forgot to send it to you because I thought that would have been perfect. But yeah, it was just like that. Honestly, that's probably one of the funnest parts. Is just the illustrations. Yeah. I mean, again, it's for kids, but I gotta fucking read them. I mean, I figured if there was some stupid topic that I had to research, it had to be, a part of our fucking symbol that we use.
Yeah.
So, it was fun.
I like this stuff because it sort of plants the seed for other people to follow. And so what was so great, I think, and certainly what I'm going to be touching on in mine, is this continuity that exists. That yes, there are sort of stumbles in the continuity, but they kind of correct it for the most part. Mm-hmm. But you could tie together everything from the past, and then future shows that come will reference what you've tied together from the past, pick up those plot lines, move forward. So it all forms this one vast continuity. And they did this throughout decades of novelizations, which they seemingly couldn't do from episode The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, which blows my fucking mind, but they could do it for decades in novels.
Well, and the reason being was there was really just a core group of authors that even going back to like before the novels, back with like the actual board games, Lucasfilms had a core group of authors that would write those games, and they all would do different stories, but they would all communicate with each other to make sure that they could line up.
Yeah. It seems like such a basic thing.
Yeah,
and certainly something that's a cornerstone to the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fuck, that's what kept Star Wars alive.
Yeah.
For a lot of us.
It's wild. Josh says in the chat room he just rewatched the original trilogy and started wondering what's the story behind the second Death Star and why they left corridor large enough for ships to fly through.
Well, they take a while to build.
The whole thing was it was a trap. It was supposed to look super easy, so that the rebels felt like they could easily take it, which they ended up buying after the Emperor let the Bothan spy net steal the plans. And then it was a whole trap that he set up that would have worked if it weren't for you rascally kids. But honestly, I mean, if it wasn't for Han on the Forest Moon of Endor, it would have worked like brilliantly. Mm-hmm. And even then, you could say if it weren't for Chewbacca, actually. Because he's the one that ended up stealing the ATST and breaking into the shield generator.
That is true. He's always the unsung hero, and it's such bullshit.
Yeah.
But then you get motherfuckers that swear up and down he doesn't have a peen. Like, fuck. Yeah, I'm calling you out, motherfucker.
Who was that? Who would ever say something like that?
I don't know.
So weird and meta. Okay. Yeah, I said it, and I'm standing behind it. I've never seen his penis. I don't think Chewbacca has
got
one.
Like a duck dick. That would just make perfect sense. I mean, they're a rough fucking species. Wouldn't it make sense that he has a duck dick? And
I don't know. I don't know what dicks ducks have.
Dude, you gotta look it up. It's disturbing. Sorry, apparently I have a very itchy ferret, guys.
Okay. Duck dick. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to say about your series or duck dicks in general, maybe?
No, I mean, it's a lot of goofy antics. It's very kid-centric where every book ends as a standalone, even though it's admittedly a series. Mm-hmm. There's always a moral at the end. I mean, the one thing that I do appreciate is a really heavy, we need to take care of nature stance that all of the books have. I mean, the fucking first one, it's all about the whaling industry and how it's bad. So, I mean, I dig that stuff, but yeah.
It was very Star Trek-y, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Seeing the whales and stuff.
Definitely. I mean, we've had space whales, but not whales. That's just fucking weird.
Whales,
especially because it's on Mon Calamari, which isn't Mon Calamari, it's calamari at the time. Which is another weird thing, especially because the Mon Cals and the oh my god, why can't I think of their name? The other ones that live on that planet, they don't live on that planet at the time, so that's weird. It's just humans with people.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. And you could even say Mon Cals are super fucking weird.
Well, I mean, of course.
Like all the alien species. Like what's up with the devil alien species?
Oh, the Duros? They're cool as shit.
And then you had like young Anakin in Watto's shop saying that there were angels that he heard stories of from the other starfighters, which I thought was kind of weird. And then you had Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back saying that I'll see you in hell. There's these weird references to our culture in Star Wars universe, which I always thought was kind of weird, especially when you start to dive in some of the insane stuff that we're about to get into next.
Oh, yes.
It gets weird. Should we just dive in?
It gets fucking awesome. Yeah, I'm going to be the counterpoint of this argument, by the way.
Okay. Well, strap in, everyone.
Take it off.
This all comes from the Fate of the Jedi series, and again, because there was this mass continuity within the Star Wars galaxy at the time, it fed in backtracking to the Clone Wars TV series, and then forward to this, just as these final books were being written and everything. But it tied in not only to the Clone Wars series, but Knights of the Old Republic video game 1 and 2. Like, there was a massive universal continuity spanning 10,000 plus years of Star Wars universe with this one singular thing that I'm about to bring up. So let's just name she who cannot be named, Abeloth. That is what I'm talking about.
Fucking Abeloth.
Abeloth. This creature was considered, it was introduced in the Fate of the Jedi series originally. She was also known as the bringer of chaos and beloved queen of the stars. She was born roughly 100,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. And so very, like early galaxy, pre-Old Republic type timeline here.
Pre-dawn, even.
Yeah, I mean, this is like way back in the day. Like, you could even argue that this was the beginning of the Star Wars universe as far as the tales go anyway. She started as a servant to the Ones, and if you watched our Force series show, we talked about the Ones. These are the mother... Well, actually, in truth, the Ones are a species of being that are so connected with the Force, they sort of maintain the balance. And this, the father, son, and daughter that we saw in the Clone Wars, and then later we saw connected with Rebels, and then moving back through time, but forward in the sort of universe we saw within this Fate of the Jedi series with Luke Skywalker and his son, Ben Skywalker. The original Ben was Luke's son, not Han's.
Yes.
They were introduced to this idea, which I thought was really wonderful because it passed back and forward not only in Star Wars time, but our literal time in the way that these stories interacted with each other, which is such a wonderful thing that they could do back in the day and they can't seem to do nowadays. But she started, Abeloth started just as a regular human. Like this sentient species that was so connected with the Force called the Ones. She ended up just, first of all, being a servant. And then, they became so connected that she kind of became a motherly figure and sort of doted after the son and daughter, resolving small disputes, and became very familiar with the father. And there was this really sort of familial relationship. And if you don't know anything about the Ones, they literally held the balance of the Force. And it wasn't until the Clone Wars and Anakin Skywalker being revealed as literally the chosen one that destroyed the entire semblance of balance of the Force and the Ones themselves. And they tried to get him to become the balance, which he was meant to be if you subscribe to the Force creating him in Legends rather than the current canon of Palpatine creating him. And so it does, and I only mention that because it does actually change a lot of stuff. So it starts to break down continuity and stuff when you sort of mess with the timeline like that. Yeah. But he was meant to take over the balance. He refused, which then everything that happened after that point, spinning the galaxy into darkness, was ultimately because of that one decision. But moving back, 100,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the mother was a human. She was fated to die as all humans are. Holy hell, what is going on over there? That is one loud rodent. My God. She is going crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, what I always thought was interesting is that they lived on this unknown planet that was within the Maw. And of course, we all know the Maw from Solo and the story of the Kessel Run. It was this area of space with tons of different black holes all clustered in this one area. Let me see if I can pull up my notes here. And of course, that's where the Kessel Run is. And if you ever watched Solo, Star Wars Story, or heard anything about the Kessel Run, that is, in fact, where it is. I just thought it was a nice little, nod to everything else that we love about it. Is that Pugsley, the name of your...
Yes,
okay,
Pugsley is going batshit crazy.
She's like, I love them all!
Sorry about that. He does. He loves the Star Wars.
It's okay. So the Maw cluster is just simply the Maw, as it was called. It was an unstable and mostly unnavigatable cluster of black holes located near the planet Kessel. Of course, those spice mines that are so popular in Star Wars universe. But over the course of this woman's life, again, she became the mother. She kept the peace in a desperate attempt to hold on to the life that she loved so much with the ones. She drank from the font of power and bathed in a pool of knowledge. So the font of power and the pool of knowledge are these force nexuses that you see, like on Dagobah, Luke Skywalker goes into as Yoda wanted him to. In the Force in the Last Jedi, you see Rey. You see Rey get kind of sucked into one that was a dark side Force one. And we haven't really experienced a light side Force version of the Nexus, though this is one of them. So once she went into these two Force Nexuses, she became at one with both the light and dark side of the Force, and it completely corrupted her being. And that is when she really took the form of Aboleth, or Abeloth. Do I have another picture of her? No, I do not. And so at this point, the father was really upset. He knew that she would literally unbalance the universe and the Force. And so he sort of abandoned her on this planet within the Maw, and went to what we now know as Malachor with his daughter and son in order to maintain the balance. And it was, ultimately the son and the daughter reached out to these creatures called the Killiks, which you'll recognize from the old Knights of the Old Republic series, is one of the earliest species. And it was them and another species that really helped formulate the Jedi and the Sith as we know them today, because they helped create the Rakata is who helped create the actual lightsabers in the first place, like the original lightsabers. And then these guys helped maintain the sort of Force entity that would have destroyed all of the universe had it not been for their ingenious engineering feats of not just Centerpoint Station, but also Sinkhole Station, which is a sort of smaller version of it. And though they may have had different purposes originally, they actually served as containment devices for Abeloth, which I always thought was kind of interesting, because you don't really think of external devices containing people. You always, like, historically what we've been introduced to anyway is like the Force itself doing it. But when you are a creature of the Force, I don't know. Apparently technology can hold back the Force, which I thought
well,
was
and it's crazy too, like thinking about Centerpoint Station, because like the first introduction to Centerpoint Station was the Han Solo trilogy. Yeah. So like reading that stuff, reading like all about that, and then thinking about those books again, it's like, holy shit, that's what that was for?
Yeah.
Because even the Corellians didn't really know what the fuck it was for. They just knew they could use it as a weapon.
Yeah, it was just an ancient device that has always been there. It really reminds me of like Halo, the video game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just run across these ancient structures. You don't know what the hell they were originally meant for, but you just sort of try to use them for your thing. And what's really interesting is that, the Centerpoint Station and, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here because I have terrible memory. Sinkhole Station, they've been referenced all the way from the Old Republic to Expanded Universe, spanning, just thousands of years. It isn't until you get to that far, 42 sort of after the Battle of Yavin year, that you learn the original purpose that it was created so many years prior, which I always thought was kind of interesting. So let's see. The son and the daughter enlisted the help of the Killik hives to create the massive technological artifacts that are known as the Centerpoint and Sinkhole Station in order to imprison Aboleth. She managed to escape her prison when the current of the Force was altered and the flow of time changed. And I thought this was interesting because it mentions that she was able to escape a number of times, but it never really goes into firm detail, only that the father, the son, and the daughter were able to, and with the help of the Killiks, were able to recontain her. And And so this is something that's happened over and over again. She gets out, they recontain her, and as long as they're there, everything's good and everything's safe. And enter Anakin Skywalker,
Yeah.
who then is instrumental in the demise of the father, son, and daughter, and then doesn't stand where he's supposed to in order to maintain that balance, hence leaving open for future generations to do just what future generations do, and that is fuck shit up.
Yeah.
So the cycle repeated itself for thousands of years until the death of the ones in 21 before the Battle of Yavin. That is, of course, enter Anakin Skywalker. And then let's jump way past into the future, around 40-ish after the Battle of Yavin, and you have one Han Solo and one Princess General Leia Organa get it on. And they have themselves 3 children. One of which turns into Darth Kaitis. He just straight up says, fuck it.
Yep.
You know, what we will now know as Kylo Ren behavior. This kid did it, but he was very successful, unlike Kylo Ren. And he didn't play around.
Yeah, he was more of the long-term Vader.
Yeah.
Like, if Vader hadn't just killed all those younglings and just blown his load all at once, and Order 66 had been a slow process, that's what Darth Kaitis to me seems like. But
yeah, I loved those stories, those books. I thought they were just fantastic.
Yeah, Legacy's killer.
For me, it started to get a little bit crazy with this because you feel like you know a universe, and then they sort of just like retrograde, reapply purpose to different things, like the Centerpoint Station, you know, and start to reintroduce you to different elements that you thought you already knew, and sort of spin it. So that can be good and that can be bad. What's interesting is that Darth Kaitis was instrumental in the destruction of Centerpoint Station, which was a containment device for the Abeloth, which then allowed her to escape. And she escaped in the form of avatars and reaching out with her Force essence, her Force mind, across the galaxy, touching the Lost Tribe of the Sith and touching Luke Skywalker and Ben Skywalker. So it inspired this massive, as every child knows in every Saturday morning cartoon, the bad guys and the good guys must eventually team up to fight a greater, the enemy of my enemy and all that. So let's see. She was discovered and hunted down by Luke Skywalker and his son, and she was defeated once. Of course, this is Darth Kaitis, who destroyed Centerpoint Station and released her. This is Ben Skywalker, the only true Ben Skywalker.
Yeah, god damn it.
I loved those stories of Luke being this outcast and his son looking for him and them trying to understand the dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force and going on these adventures to try to find balance.
That, like trying to understand everything.
Yeah,
it's, oh my god. Yeah, that series is so amazing.
It's just so good. So they defeated her once, and actually they defeated a lot of her avatars over time, until she took the form of Senator Rokari Kem, and she was elected as the chief of state of the Galactic Alliance. And this is where she had a lot of influence over everyone and the universe at large. But again, Luke Skywalker comes to the rescue, as he always does, unless you watch The Last fucking Jedi, and in which case, I don't think he came to the fucking rescue. He just fucking killed himself so 12 people could escape. Bullshit. Anyway, I don't want to fucking go on for a rant here. He teams up with Darth Krayt. Again, bad guy, good guy, team together to defeat an even badder guy, and they go into the realm of Beyond Shadows. Again, this idea of, and what I love about the idea of the Beyond Shadows is it reminds me of the World Beyond Worlds, I think it was called in Rebels, right? The Beyond Worlds or the World Beyond Worlds or something like that. Where it's this sort of, it's like the Force personified as a place almost. And it's perceived in different ways by different beings. When Darth Vader from the Darth Vader comics went into it from his portal underneath his castle in the comics, he saw and experienced something vastly different than, other people who go into it, like in Rebels, for example, when he goes in, what was his name? It hasn't been that
Ezra?
long. Ezra Bridger goes in there and rescues Ahsoka Tano from her fight with Darth Vader. And so there, it's experienced differently by different people, but ultimately it's just still the same realm of the Force, which I always thought was kind of interesting. And knowing that even I complained about it when Star Wars Rebels presented it the way that they did, it always kind of existed in some form, in the EU.
Yeah.
So that kind of tempers my reaction to it anyway. But Luke Skywalker and Darth Krayt go into, and this is Darth Krayt here. He's the guy at the top, freaking out at his Padawan there. They go in, they defeat Aboleth for all intents and purposes. And so Aboleth died at 44 after the Battle of Yavin at their hands. But Luke, being Luke, did not believe that she was going to be completely destroyed because he's lived through way too many threats in the galaxy and quelled them all.
Well, he's a Jedi Grand Master at this point.
Yeah. He is literally the most powerful Force entity per George Lucas that ever lived in the EU. And so he was searching for the planet Mortis where the Ones lived, and ultimately he wanted to go there to find the Dagger of Mortis, which is what actually murdered the father and the son. So I always thought that was, this is the son here. He was the personification of the dark side of the Force, voiced by our favorite Sam Witwer of Star Wars voice and acting fame. But that was always neat because in this time that the Clone Wars as a show never even existed. They were already defining these elements that were then formulated into the story that we know from the Clone Wars of Anakin and the mother, and the father and the daughter and the sister. And then the dagger itself, which was their demise. What I find interesting in another little contingency there is that in the Clone Wars, Mortis was destroyed. And so it sort of vanished in the blink of an eye. So it doesn't really exist for Luke to find, but that was kind of interesting to me. So I chose this, and that's all I have for this story. So I chose this story because it's just so fantastical, and it spans, hundreds of thousands of galactic generations, and it's this creature that no one knew about. At least, you would think that this would be a story that would be passed to different people somehow, or through Jedi or the Sith or something, but no one had a clue until 40 years after the Emperor died. Like, what the hell is... Why did no one know about this? Like, this is supposed to be core to the Force, and yet no one who is a Force wielder of any degree had any fucking clue. That's just like an absurd thing.
Well, see, the only reason why she was ever discovered was because she was the reason for the outbreak. Like, the whole, essentially, like, the Jedi Rage, where just random Jedi were just going rogue and destroying shit. I mean, that's how the Fate of the Jedi series starts, is... was it Corran Horn, I think, just randomly is on Coruscant and starts fucking shit up, and they have to lock him up. And that's, I mean, and it wasn't for, God, probably a good amount of the first book, or maybe the second book, before they realized that that's what was creating the disturbance, and that's what brought the Lost Tribe of the Sith out of hiding and shit. So, I mean, that, I get it. I get it. She's kind of a weird character, and it's sort of, I don't know, like an easy out to make certain things make sense. But I felt like she was a real good driving force of that storyline. But
I don't know. It kind of bothers me when you feel like you have, at this point, 38, 37 years of Star Wars universe knowledge. And then they're like, so all those bad guys that you thought were bad, they were nothing compared to this new bad guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's, I don't know. I think that's kind of the fun part, is when they bring new things, because there was a lot of different aspects of the Force that were brought up in those series. Even, straight up going through the Beyond the Shadows. Like Luke had done it numerous times, and it was crazy to get that experience of essentially him going beyond the veil, but not being dead, but still experiencing death. Right. I don't know. I dug it.
I just, I don't know. If you set up there's a character that's the most powerful force wielder, and then for a plot device, say, just kidding, there's actually a bigger one. Like at some point, we're gonna get it was the same idea with all the planet-killing devices, the Empire, and then the remnants of the Empire created over and over again. And then we saw in The Force Awakens, we're just like, all right, already, like, come up with a new fucking plan. Like, that's where I was just like, come on, this is ridiculous. Like, keep adding a new bad guy. But what do you think about this idea that once The Force Awakens came out, when they sort of wiped away all of Legends, but they still sort of cherry pick? So, for example, Darth Kylo Ren, being a son of Solo and Leia, is the sort of next bad guy. They take these little elements and move them forward. What do you think about this theory that Snoke is an avatar of Aboleth, of an Aboleth-like character?
I mean, I could dig that more than what we have right now with him. Because what do we got with him? That he has a ring that was fashioned from the bedrock of Vader's castle.
That didn't help him at all.
That still got him chopped in half.
Yeah.
No, if they were to bring something like that, even if it wasn't straight up her, just making a nod to the past EU, like, I think that could be cool.
Do you think that would be a bridge too far for the final movie in the final trilogy to come out with something like that heavy?
I don't think so. If their end game was to have the new trilogy based on something like that, where it has nothing to do with the Skywalker lineage, it's just following that one creature through the galaxy and all the antics and everything. Right. Like I can get behind that, but then again, I mean, what we've got so far, it's already subpar.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we have to reflect on the fact that we had, 30 years of books, of novels that take us on these really wild, and comics that take us on these wild adventures and experiences. And so we've had this history of Luke already that we knew, and we knew where he would go, and we knew how powerful he was, and we knew all of the struggles that he went through already. And so when we did see The Last Jedi, that's why we reacted the way we did. It wasn't just because of the 3 movies that preceded it. It was because we had decades and decades of novels explaining who and what he was and his motivations. And so those of us who really dove into that EU were really upset when we saw what he turned out to be, because it wasn't even a fraction of what he was, that we knew he was, as defined by their own canon at the time. So then when you start cherry picking bits of storylines and characters and trying to formulate them into a seemingly new series, and we see these echoes of these EU characters in them, it would be one thing if they went through the whole dark side. What was the Dark Forces? Dark Empire series, and they went through the Thrawn trilogy in the movies, and then landed where they are now.
Yeah.
And then introduced a brand new Aboleth. But we don't have that baggage anymore.
No.
And so now if they introduce something like the Aboleth, we already have the Force Awakens novelization explaining that Snoke witnessed the rise and fall of the Empire. Why not have him be this ultimate, and it doesn't have to be Aboleth, just another, he's Snoke, whatever that means. His entity has been around because he's been lying dormant, and he was woken by the destruction of the Empire, or maybe the rise of the Empire, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like that better than where we are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially if that, like, the body that we saw was essentially just an avatar of this greater force being. Like, that'd be pretty sweet. That's so much better than just, oh, I'm big evil guy, and then and he's gone, and no explanation of anything.
So for the sake of, the fans that have only watched the movies and they don't understand the EU, the EU fans understand there's precedent with people coming back. The Emperor came back with clones. Aboleth came back with avatars. It was her entire entity itself wasn't destroyed. The ancient Sith that built Darth Vader's temple lived past thousands of years through his helmet and then resurrected himself in Darth Vader's castle. I mean, the shit doesn't have to die. And in new canon, it hasn't died. So with that being said, the idea of Snoke being the way of the dodo, or even the Emperor, being extinct and not coming back, what do you think is more likely? Does Snoke come back, or does the Emperor come back in some form?
I would honestly hope that it's Snoke, but I wouldn't be too disappointed if it was the Emperor. But it would make more sense that it would be Snoke, just because he's been the one that's billed as, the supreme bad guy of the series.
What do you think about the theory that Snoke is literally going to be Plagueis? That there was an early interview with Daisy Ridley and J.J. Abrams before The Force Awakens was released, and someone asked J.J. if Snoke was Plagueis, and he sort of like stumbled, with his response. He was like, "No, we don't know what he is," and which sort of led people to think, he may have literally just stumbled. But it's the insinuation is that, oh shit, he was hiding. That it is in fact Plagueis. If we wanted to create an entire contained story with only names that have existed in the movies, that seems to be the most logical of solutions. Do you think that could happen?
I hope not. Honestly, I think that would probably piss me off more than anything else.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Well, fuck, you've read that book. Like, Plagueis isn't just some cocky bastard. I mean, yeah, he dies because of his arrogance, just like every other Sith master. But that...
Or their apprentices cunning.
Yeah.
I mean, they're...
Yeah, and fucking Kylo Ren is anything but subtle. Like, he's as subtle as a fucking chainsaw. So... It would be more infuriating that he was Plagueis than some other creature, because then they're essentially just getting rid of the entire. I mean, they already got rid of the story, but now they're like shitting on the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Yeah.
So I hope not, but I mean, if it is, I believe J.J. Abrams could make it not garbage. I hope he could make it not garbage.
I hope too. He has done some amazing work, but he's also done some shit work. So, as with everyone, you figure this is the closing of everything that we know so far. It better goddamn be good.
Straight.
But that was our collective, sort of cringy storylines for whatever reasons. Again, Star Wars is literally filled with them, whether they're beings that could not be affected by the Force itself, which is pretty cringy in and of itself, considering the Force is made of all living beings.
Yeah.
The Yuuzhan Vong.
I've never understood that one. Those tricks don't work on me, Jedi. It's like, shut the fuck. You don't got a brain, I guess.
Reminds me of Jabba. Jedi, mind tricks do not work on me. Only the weak-minded. Yeah, so there's just tons of little stories or different moments in each of the films that you may be like, that didn't, I hate sand. Or no! Whatever it is that sort of makes you just go, oh, come on, really? You couldn't write something better than that? No one could have told you that sucked? But despite those moments or those storylines, there is much more good than there is bad in the Legends. And so that's why we continue going back to it. And
absolutely.
Fucking fingers crossed that at least the Mandalorian can pull canon out of its head out of its ass.
Yeah, especially because that's supposed to be current. Because I mean, of course, the standalones. I mean, we've already filleted their praises ad nauseum. But yeah, because that would be much more current. Yeah. And fuck, it'd be so good if it was nice.
All right, so that's kind of all we had for this week. I can't believe we're actually under time for once.
I know, it's crazy.
This is weird.
Usually I could have gone on those books, but it would have just been constantly repeating, "Oh, it's garbage," but read them.
You got to read the garbage, but it's garbage. It's just garbage.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. You can always support the show by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Send us your I am a Scruffy Looking Nerf Herder videos like Sean at the very top of the show. And you can do that how?
Why, Adam? You can send that to the infernalbrotherhood@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call on our Google Voice account, which I still don't remember the fucking phone number.
1-800-899-6168. 1-801-899-6168. You can send the audio or video, and we'll figure it out for ourselves. But yeah, it'll just help open up these main shows, and it's just sort of fun, seeing what people come up with.
And people will find you really attractive.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Many people will fall in love with you.
It's true. Science.
Yeah, you'll get a duck dick from Chewie himself.
Hell yeah, you will.
All right, I'm going to go Google duck dicks, so let's close this thing out. May the force be with you, everyone.
I foresaw this meeting.
What's up, Princess Moon? Princess Moon.